Hi, my name's Lisa Burling. I'm the Managing Director of LBPR, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here with you today as part of the Small Business Women Australia Education and Information series. Thanks to Amanda for asking me to be involved. I'm incredibly passionate about PR, so to be able to share my knowledge with you is fantastic, and I really hope that at the end of this you love PR as much as I do, and the opportunity that it presents, particularly for small business. Just quickly, in terms of who I am, I have run LBPR for the last 7 years, but I've been in the industry for more than 20. I'll let you do the maths on how old I am with that one. But what that means is I've had a lot of experience. So I started my career in the New Children's Hospital at Sydney after finishing a broadcast journalism degree. And that took me to the ACT Cancer Council, Canberra Tourism, and then I spent 12 years overseas in London working on some of the biggest global brands and charities in the world under some of the best PR brains. So I was incredibly fortunate to have that opportunity, and what makes me really happy is that I can share that experience and that expertise with people like you, so you can also tap into the power of this amazing element of the marketing mix. The topic today is PR is not what you think it is, and that's something my team and I at LBPR are working on in a lot of detail, and we're very, very passionate about it. We have won awards for our work with the Public Relations Institute of Australia consistently since the business inception, and we have been recognised as one of the best small PR consultancies in Australia as well. So for us, there's an opportunity as a thought-leading small consultancy to really start to challenge what people perceive PR to be and what they perceive it not to be. I started out, as I said, at the New Children's Hospital in Westmead, and back then email was really embryonic. If you got 5 a day, that was super exciting. So I would write media releases. I would fax them out to a select group of media outlets. In fact, it was probably more than a select group, just everyone. And then I would do what has come to be known as the spray and pray approach, where you just sent them out, crossed your fingers, a journalist would pick it up, and then just waited for the coverage reports to come through from a media monitoring service. It was very, very basic, very little thought, and it was a different world back then. You know, we certainly didn't have the number of online outlets that we have, and the insatiable online desire for information that social media has brought to us. So PR absolutely did used to stand for press release, and I'm sure a lot of you watching probably would think, well, yeah, it's media releases, it's getting coverage. When people say, oh, I just want you to PR that, that's usually what they mean. But it's not always the case, and it's certainly not the case for us and our clients, which is great news for you as a small business owner, because what that means is the opportunity is actually huge. And I employ a lot of the tactics that I do for clients for my own business. In fact, doing this right now with you is a great example of that. So it's really time to redefine what is a really potent element of the marketing mix. And I hope that what I'm going to do tonight is get you as excited about it as I am. So at LBPR, we don't want to be told that you want a press release. The kind of clients that we like are the ones that give us an opportunity or a challenge and then allow us to work out the best way to apply our skills and expertise to achieve the desired outcome. And we're really focused on outcomes. So of course, you know, outputs are important metrics, you know, how many pieces of coverage, what's the engagement rate on social media, all that sort of thing. But actually the outcome is what it's all about. Have we changed a behavior or an opinion? Have we sold your product or service? Have you been asked to speak at events as a thought leader? So that's really where our head goes. We always ask that you let us guide you. And today or tonight, depending on when you're watching, I'm going to share with you how you can start to think that way too. So if we assume that PR is not what you think it is, then what is it? And that's an important thing to start with. By definition, it really is any way that you engage with your audiences. So from interactions with the work experience person right through to the CEO, how you answer the phone, how you write an email, the way that you dress and present yourself, that is all PR. Me being here right now presenting this, it's PR. You will form impressions of me and my business as a direct result of me interacting with you this way. It's crazy, right? Because when you think about it in that way, PR is all around you. And as a small business owner, you're PRing all the time without even realizing it. Once you take those blinkers off, the opportunity to be really good at PR and have it benefit your business every minute of every day becomes so very clear. I would like to say that not all PR professionals are created equal at this point. We are very much focused on strategy, because without thought, things become very haphazard, and you just won't get the results that you want. So we are not spin doctors. We are not publicists. We are PR professionals with an expert brain to help you achieve what you want to as a business. So I thought, to kind of bring to life this PR is not what you think it is, I'd give you a day in the life of me and my team today, so you can see what it is we're actually doing. And, you know, it is one of those things where I'm pretty convinced that even my own family's like, oh, what exactly are you doing? But today we wrote 2 social media strategy documents for 2 very different clients. We created an issues management matrix for a client, and then we developed reactive media statements and Q&As off the bat of identifying what those were. We created social media content plans, which included words, images, and video for 2 of our main clients in preparation for the month ahead. We approached some digital influencers for a tourism-related campaign, influencers that we've worked with and we trust, to see if they'd like to work on this one again, which will be really exciting. We finalised some expert articles we've been co-authoring with experts in the aged care sector, and we're going to make those available to the public. So that was really exciting to be able to tap into their brains and get some knowledge that will help other people. We developed a communications plan for a new product that will be available online. And we pitched in a mental health client to national media, which resulted in coverage on the Today Show, 3AW, one of the main AM stations in Melbourne, and ABC. So that was exciting for them and exciting for us. We didn't write one media release. So that doesn't mean that we don't write media releases. We do, but I would say on average, we'd maybe write 2 a month or less. So things have changed. Again, great news for you, lots of opportunity. So PR is in essence strategy. Everything that we do, media relations, social media, digital influencer campaigns, content creation, key messages, preparing a client to manage an issue, stakeholder engagement, begins with strategy, guided by business objectives and driven at full throttle by a vision of what the desired outcome is. Absolutely critical to success. It's stakeholder engagement. So we find your advocates and we nurture them, communicating your worth, inspiring opportunities for growth, and fostering trust, respect, and buy-in. And I think it's important to say that stakeholders can be external, but they can also be internal. And the cohesion between those 2 is something that, you know, PR is really, really good at navigating. It's content creation. You know, my love is words. I adore writing, and at heart, I think most PR professionals are storytellers. So whether it's websites, magazines, e-newsletters, flyers, promotional materials, social media content, editorial pitches, whatever it is, we turn words into prose that enables a connection to your target audience. It's that simple. It's also digital influencers and media, social media content. So you can't afford not to have a digital presence. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted in many ways, that you need to get involved. People just expect you to meet them where they are. The days of, you know, just being fed information from advertisers and blindly kind of absorbing it are long, long gone. So it means social media is critical. It means online content like video is critical. And it means engagement with digital influencers like bloggers is critical. And our approach has won us national awards with the Public Relations Institute of Australia for clients as diverse as tourism and power tools. So again, the process and the strategy really pulls it all together and makes it work in a way that delivers proper outcomes. PR is also identifying your worst case scenario and planning for it. And this is probably the hardest thing to sell or get across the line with small clients. Big clients get it, and I guess you could argue it's why they're big, because they understand that every business has risks. And if those risks come to light and happen, and you're not prepared to deal with it from an external perspective, which could be on Facebook, it could be the media, then things are going to get tough really, really quickly. And I'm sadly have seen a lot of businesses actually not recover from things that have gone wrong that they've not been prepared for. So this element is all about us helping you identify the most likely and most visible negative events that could happen for your business and coming up with a plan to help you manage it if it does. So pre-writing reactive media statements and Q&As, media training, your key spokesperson, having internal comms ready. And of course, if something happens, there'll be nuances and tweaks, but if you have everything watertight, ready to go, should the unexpected happen, it makes a world of difference when you've got a head start. So we hope you never, ever have to use this work. But the reality is, if the shit hits the fan, we can work faster and smarter when the groundwork is done. And of course, PR is still editorial media relations. I think the way that we approach it has changed. So we will always tailor our approach. And we've developed obviously some very, very good journalist contacts over the years that respect us. A journalist will not write a story because they're your friend. And I say that having a lot of friends who I went to university with who are now senior producers and editors for some of the biggest media outlets in Australia. If the story's no good, they're not going to run it just because Lisa Burling is their friend. It's about thinking outside of your own ego. So rarely is your product going to get a plug because it very much falls into the advertising space. So how can you dress it up and make it more relevant? So introducing true innovation, raising topics that should be hot, shaping thought-provoking debate, and managing crisis situations. They're all the things that we can help you with. This week alone, we did profile PR campaigns focused on editorial for 2 female entrepreneurs. We also had a pet health education campaign going out, and I've already mentioned the one around mental health. So really varied stuff, but all tailored, not a media release in sight, making it easy and exciting for journalists to think, aha, this is something that I can work with. So now that we know what PR is, let's go through how you can harness the power of PR for your small business. I'm going to share my top 6 ways to do that. So I invite you to get a notepad and a pen. If you're like me, you probably already have, and start to write these down. This is the gold standard way of working. It's how we work with clients every day. And this is why we consistently win national awards within our industry. For me personally, it's how I was trained by the best PR brains in the world when I lived overseas for 12 years. So a lot of this content you won't find anywhere else. And I am really pleased to say that you'll find most of it on our website. So you can always go and download it if you're scribbling away and I'm talking too fast. So the secret really to a great PR experience and campaign is there is no secret. Failing to plan is planning to fail. You have to make sure that you know why you're doing it, what you're doing, who you're trying to target. It's very, very simple. Time spent at the start is an investment in the outcomes you want to see in the future. I've mentioned leaving your ego at the door, and that's super important. My industry, PR consultants are a dime a dozen. What makes LBPR stand out from all of the others? And if you know me and you've followed my journey or you've looked at, our LBPR social media, you'll know that we're pretty clear on what sets us apart. And I knew at the start that it really had to be me and my story that did that. So if you're a pea in a pod, what makes you different? Start to really think about that as we're going through this process. And in some cases, you know what? It might be you, as it was in my case. If you take the time to clarify business goals, what you want to say and how you want to say it, plan what you're going to do and respect your audience. And your audience can be journalists or stakeholders in between the final target. You will succeed in PR, and hopefully, you'll come to love it as much as I do. So what I thought we could do is actually just walk through a fictitious case study, and you can do the same with your business now as I'm talking. So the number one thing is to start with the end in mind. And this is really difficult because there is a tendency to jump to tactics. So as I said, people will contact us and say, I want a media release. And we always take them back and go, well, hang on a minute, what is the ultimate goal? because a media release may not be the best way to go about it. And in most instances, it's not. So start with the end in mind. What do you want to see? Is it more sales? Is it more website hits? Is it being asked to speak at an event? Is it, a thought leadership role for you? Whatever it might be. Is it winning an industry award? Who knows? Whatever it is, articulate that clearly and succinctly, and that's your start point in your journey. Be specific. SMART objectives, invaluable. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. The next step is define your audience. And this is critical to success, but it can be the thing that, falls down if you're not keeping a check on yourself. So a great example of that is a client that will want to be on Weekend Sunrise, but actually their client base isn't watching Weekend Sunrise. In fact, they're not even engaging with it at all. They're far more interested in what's happening in the local local newspaper, I should say. So think about where they are. It's not always the bigger stuff. And I think this is where you really have to keep your ego in check and keep in mind that, bigger is not always better. Similarly, if your audience is not consuming online, but you're thinking, I'd love to do a digital influencer campaign, that's an immediate mismatch. I know it sounds obvious, but I can't tell you the number of times we've had these conversations with clients. So I just want to avoid you going down that rabbit hole from the get-go. So working out who you want to reach is so important, and my advice is keep it tight. Don't try and be all things to all people. Pick one audience to focus on initially, and maybe it's the one that you think is most likely to engage, or an audience that you've had success with before. And once you do that, your best PR options become really clear. Think about where their eyes and ears are. And if you know people that represent your target audience, my goodness, ask them. What are they consuming? What time are they looking at things? How do they want to be told information? And ultimately, what would make them change a behavior, an opinion, buy something, tell someone, whatever it might be? Billboards versus local fates, national versus regionals. Really have your mind open to the opportunities. And also consider whether it's best to communicate directly with your target audience, or whether actually the circle of influence around them might be more powerful. And I'll give you an example from one of our current clients that is operating in the dementia space. And the product is for people with dementia, but understandably, that's not the core target audience. It's actually the carer or the family that sits around that person that is who we need to speak to and influence and educate and help ultimately. So be open to what that universe looks like and where you're best to spend your efforts. The third thing that you need to do is create your key messages. And again, like the clue's kind of in the wording, key messages. But again, it surprises us how many people just don't do this. And to help you do it for yourself, we have a key messages matrix on the LBPR website, and there's a whole blog about it as well. But essentially, the first place to start is to just say what you want to say. Don't get bogged down in technical jargon or industry speak or acronyms, because nobody cares. And if that's an industry that you work in, it's going to be tough, but you need to do it. And, my industry has jargon as well. So you just got to go, okay, leave that at the door. What is it that I'm trying to say? Say it out loud, record it on your phone, write it in an email, and then put it in the hands of people that can honestly give you some feedback. One of the things we do when we media train clients is get them to pretend that they're speaking to a 10-year-old boy or girl. And I actually have a little guy called Nigel that I put in front of them, because immediately that forces you to stop talking in a language people don't get and to keep it really simple. So keep it simple, stupid applies to your key messages. Once you know what those messages are, you've made them super simple. What this matrix allows you to do is actually tailor them for different audiences. So you want to make sure your key messages are congruent throughout any PR activity, but there will be ways that you will say things differently. So what you say to your internal audience may be different to what you're saying to an external audience. Same thing, different approach. Clearly, if it's your staff, the way that you communicate it and what you say will be very different to if you're communicating to a broader audience, many of whom you don't personally know. take the time to do it. You could even take it further and consider a glossary of terms. And again, on the website, we have a word wide web, we call it, where you can actually articulate with your team what the words are that you want to use and the words that you don't. And that becomes the basis of a document you can refer to throughout all of your marketing activity, including PR. The fourth step is to devise your PR strategy. And I'm sure you're like, wow, here she goes again, strategy, but I can't express clearly enough how important that is. And honestly, this is kind of where the fun bit starts, because you know who you're talking to, you know what you want to say, you know where they're hanging out virtually or in real life. So now you can work out how to go about doing things and strategically doing things in a way that's going to give you maximum chances of success. So if I give you an example of fictitious business, maybe you have yours, definitely have yours in your head, but maybe start to think, okay, how could I apply this? My fictitious business is that I am a mum of a newborn baby. I have used all sorts of different wipes on the markets from the big brands, and for whatever reason, I end up with an eczema, skin issue every time. And that has inspired me to create natural wipes. I've spent a long time trying to figure out where to source them from, the materials. And I'm just so stoked that I've created the best natural wipe on the market. And of course, I want to tell everybody about it. I only purchase online, so I'm not big enough to even consider going to the major retailers yet. And I know that I'm in a super crowded marketplace where there's a lot of brand loyalty or maybe even just apathy. So what I'm focusing on is new mums. So mums that aren't, already buying Huggies and Johnsons or whatever it might be, ones that are open to a new product and, are particularly interested in natural health options. And I know what makes my story different is the reason that I came to make them and how they feel and the lovely kind of experience that I have with it as a mum on my baby. So I have a small budget to play with, like hardly anything, and I can sample my products, so that's good. But I know I'm probably going to have to do most of it myself. So within that framework, what do? Let's find out. So I know my PR strategy has to focus on online communication channels if I'm going to sell online. There is no point going anywhere else. Nobody will care about my wipes. I know that. I'm pragmatic. I've left my ego at the door. So I'm going to harness my story as a mum and a child with skin conditions who created this natural wipe, go into why I did it, and make sure that I'm appearing wherever I know my audience is on social media and in online media, which is basically the parenting websites. I'm remembering these are time poor mums, right? So my messages are really tight and clear. I'm not going on. And I'm really going to focus on getting actual samples into the hands of mums that have the ability to influence other mums. It's the classic sell once to reach many approach. So once I've kind of got all that, my tactics become pretty easy to work out. The first thing I'm going to do is reach out to all the mum Facebook groups on social media in my area. So I'm just going to start around sort of the Sydney Wollongong area and share my story and offer to sample to their audience. I'm going to reach out to the mummy micro influencers that I follow and I really like to read stuff about. They're only, sort of 5,000 or less followers, but the engagement is really high. And I know whatever they talk about, their audience is really into it. And that's what I want to do. I'm going to offer them a discount code so I can see whether their audience is actually engaging and ordering my product. And if that's the case, then I'm super open to us perhaps creating an ongoing relationship that's mutually beneficial to us both. I'm happy to pay them a little bit of money, for them to do some posts and stories of using the wipes, because I know that endorsement is going to be invaluable for me. And perhaps I can even share that on my own social media to help gather that sort of evidence base that the product is good and it's credible and it works. I'm also going to just start small on editorial media relations. So I'm going to contact my local media and I'm going to tell them my story and what I'm doing. To maybe make it a little more exciting, I might decide to enter some local business awards as a startup and share what I've done. But right now I really just would love to get one piece online in the local media so my friends and family know what I'm doing and can support me, because your community is incredibly important when you start a new business. So I've just got 3 things I'm going to do. And yes, there's lots of steps within that, but I'm confident that that's what I can realistically do. And then it's going to give me the best chance of hitting my target audience and selling my product. I hope that kind of has helped you see, the way that the thought process goes. And step 6 is really important. It's measuring your success. So at the start, you remember that we did our SMART objectives and we were really clear on what we wanted to achieve. And now that we've come to the conclusion of the campaign, whatever time frame that is for you, is the time to go, okay, did I achieve those objectives? Did I exceed them or not achieve them at all in certain instances? And not achieving them at all isn't a bad thing, because what it tells you is, okay, I'm not going to do that again. That's not working. And you have to allow room for a little bit of trial and error when you start. As an expert communicator, I can probably help you navigate that a little more quickly, but there's fun in the journey. So if something's working really well for you, so say for example, with my fictitious natural baby wipes product, I found that influencers generated all of my website traffic and all of my sales, then I'm just going to do that moving forward. I'm not going to worry about the mummy Facebook groups and the editorial media coverage right now. I am going to focus solely on influencers and harnessing the ones that worked well and making that a genuine ongoing relationship, so they essentially become a product advocate. So then I'll plan my next campaign off that and see what happens and go from there. As I always say to my team, we're smart, but this isn't rocket science. It's not brain surgery. If you think about it properly, it's really just words and connection and being where your audience is. And it can be really so much fun, particularly when you start to see the results that come from an amazing, amazing PR campaign. Can you tell I still get excited about it? So now just in the final part of this session, I wanted to move on just to deep dive into a few tactics that I've spoken about and the ones that I feel are probably most pertinent to people that are operating in a small business environment. So the first one is working with digital influencers, and this can be something that people are hesitant to do because they have had a bad rap that, digital influencers don't do what you want and they'll post things that are off brand. And I think if you have influencers that you follow and you trust and, you collect a database like we have at LBPR of those that are really valuable and have a true respect for their audience and vice versa, you really can't go wrong. And a blog on our website, lbpr.com.au, goes into far more detail. But really, those that get it are building longer-term beneficial relationships rather than these one-off sugar hit type scenarios, which might see a spike in sales, but don't create that beautiful depth and breadth of, commercial benefit. Steer away from influencers that hitch their wagon to everything that comes along. And, I probably don't need to spell out who those people are. It's inauthentic. It might work for a little while, but the engagement with those posts are low. And the micro influencers, so the 5,000 or less, are often the ones where the engagement is enormous. So start there, start small, start with what you have and focus on building quality relationships. Risk versus reward is something to think about, but if you communicate clearly, you make it clear what your expectations are, you document some sort of mini contract, and we do that on behalf of our clients here that stipulates what the messages are, what the mandatories are, like hashtags and URLs, images, and you exchange a monetary value in it, to access their audience, like a kind of sponsorship type fee. It can be one of the most rewarding things that you do in terms of a business. And as per my example with my baby wipes business, it might end up being the thing that you do most. So the risk is definitely worth the reward if you approach it properly and professionally, like you would with anything you do in your business. Creating compelling social media content. So it actually hurts my eyeballs and my heart a little bit when I see a business that is clearly not using social media properly, to the point where I just feel like saying, just don't do it at all, because this is doing far more damage than good when it comes to your reputation and PR, kind of perception that people have of you. It's pretty clear the business owners that are sitting on their phone late at night and randomly popping up stuff, they're not using hashtags properly, they're not thinking about their key messages, the imagery is blurry and yuck, and sometimes they post every day, sometimes they don't post for a month. It just it's not a good look, I guess is what I'm saying. So what we recommend, and again, it's fact sheets available on our website, we have a blog about this, is that you actually take the time to create compelling content based on your key messages and use a content plan to do it. So the template is here. And you can download it, and this is a variation on the ones we use with our bigger clients and some of our smaller ones that we work with. But essentially, you document all the content that you're going to post for the month ahead. You might post 3 times a week, it might be 5. I wouldn't say less than 3 because otherwise you might start to disappear. What the hashtags are, any handles or links that you have, images, how much you're going to boost for. And I should say that, you do have to pay to play with Facebook and Instagram in particular, LinkedIn not so much. And then when it's going to be posted. And there are software available to help you schedule posts. And I know with a lot of our clients, they've moved to Creator Studio, which is a Facebook tool that allows you to schedule on Instagram as well as Facebook. So well worth looking into if you haven't. Same with ads. What ads are you going to run, if anyway, and what's the purpose of the ad? Is it to drive page likes? Is it to learn more about something on your website? What is the goal? Is it to drive physical visits, when we're allowed into your business? But this template will really, really help you. And we also have just top tips, which we did for COVID-19, around what to do and what not to do when it comes to social media. And I think the importance of this element of our PR work is just going to increase. And it's something that, is really enjoyable and fun when you do start to create that genuine engagement with your audience. It's great market research as well. The way they talk about things and the questions that they ask are all, little Hansel and Gretel type breadcrumbs that you can then feed back into the next PR campaign that you choose to work on. How to get into the media. Now, this is a big one. And, it doesn't take, it takes a long time, to get it right. But we can certainly help guide you with the principles so you can get started. So number one, dissect your story and discover its core purpose. And I think in essence, what we're saying here is leave your ego at the door and be really pragmatic and objective about what is interesting. Now, my baby wipes example, the fact that my fictitious child had eczema, I know talking about that, even though it's painful, and my child will probably kill me when they're 18 and see that online. That's what's powerful. That's the story, and how I managed to overcome that. One way of which was my wipe. So think outside the box and how you can add value to an audience. It means you go, aha, I want to find out more about that person or that business, and then you're in the brand space. What are you doing that's different on you? A first in the industry, true innovation I've spoken about. Are you the only female in a male-dominated area? That's huge. The female entrepreneurial media space is massive. So think about it and look at what others are doing, because, there's no harm in kind of copying your contemporaries and following a path that's been forged for you. Do your research. This is about respect for the journalist. So once you know the kind of space that you want to be in, because your audience is there, well, who's the journalist writing the stories? What are they writing about? How can you frame an approach to them in a way that makes them go, aha, that's something I'm really interested in. I can totally see how that would fit in my column or on my site or in my radio program, whatever it might be. The third thing is to write a pitch that packs a punch. And I guess what we mean by that is just keep it tight, keep it to the facts. What's the story? Who can they interview? Are there images? If it's a TV news outlet, what's the vision that you can offer them? Because they'll immediately think, okay, how do I tell this story with moving pictures? So paint the picture, for want of a better way of describing it, from the get-go. The easier you make it, the more you show that you've thought about it, the more chance you have of getting your story over the line. And we have a top tips for speaking to journalists fact sheet under one of our blogs as well. All the things that you might want to consider, because we know, and this is the next tip, don't be afraid of journalists. We know that it can be scary. I remember when I started out, I used to steel myself to have to make calls to journalists, because honestly, a lot of them were really rude to me and really kind of dismissive. And I kind of get it, because I was faxing out blanket media releases. I wasn't tailoring around anything. I didn't quite know what I was doing. Whereas now, I have a lot of really fantastic journalist contacts who respect my pitches because I take the time to make it right for them. I have a lot of journalists who are senior producers and senior editors due to, the fact we all went to uni together. And I can tell you now, being their friend does not get coverage for my clients. What gets coverage is the quality of it, the appropriateness of it, and their ability to see it actually as part of the suite of content that they send out to their audience. So it sounds simple, but it's amazing how many people just don't take the time. And if you don't take the time, you don't want to get blacklisted and then they're like, delete straight away. And that's how it goes. Also get personal, and we'll definitely cover this as LBPR in a future blog, but the story may in fact be you. And if you operate in an environment like LBPR where it's incredibly busy, crowded, all peas in a pod type scenario, talking about you and your story and why you've set up the business and the things that you bring to the party that perhaps someone else does is always a great way to go. And I've certainly done that for LBPR and will continue to do that because I know my story and that of my team and, the combined experience we bring is something that clients, potential and current, are really, really drawn to. So in conclusion, I guess the thing to say is that sometimes you are better to outsource PR to a consultant or an expert or someone that can do it for you. And I speak from experience with accountants for myself. And I guess this is kind of flipping it where I naively thought when I started my business, because I had no experience in running a business, that any money that came through the door was all mine and I'd put it into a spreadsheet and think that was great. And then I got these bills from the tax department and realized actually no, it isn't, and tried to unpick it all myself, which took up heaps of time I wasn't building my business, time I wasn't working with my clients. Bear in mind, I had a newborn baby and a 3-year-old at the same time, so time was literally of the essence. So I learned very quickly that outsourcing certain things are not a cost to the business, they're an investment. And I couldn't run the LBPR the way I do without my accountant and bookkeeper. So think about that, which I'm sure you all will. Time versus effort, that's, and outcomes from you doing something else is basically what I'm saying. The other thing to bear in mind is you might just bring in experts to help you or, an extra pair of hands on the PR front as your training wheels. And we find that a lot with our smaller clients. And it's actually really rewarding when, you do actually implement something, but then they can run with it from there. A good example of that is a client recently who we've managed to secure a couple of regular columns for in online media that are particular to his target market. So he can now just go off and do that without us having to be involved at all. But, we kind of sit back like the proud parent going, oh, wow, look, he's off. And, he'll continue to reap lots of benefits from those connections that we managed to get up and running for him. So, it doesn't have to be ongoing. It might just be something like a tap that you switch on and off, or a Mary Poppins style PR approach that works for you. So thank you so much for hanging out with me wherever you may be. I truly hope you took lots of notes and enjoyed a cup of tea or a glass of wine while I was chatting. It's been my absolute pleasure to talk about something I'm clearly very passionate about, despite all the years I've worked in PR. As a special offer for Small Business Women Australia members, we are offering a 30-minute LBPR PR strategy Zoom session for $500. It's usually $1,500. You walk away with like a blueprint for, a campaign and, steps to take that you can do yourself. It's valid until the 15th of May and we're offering 20 spots just because, obviously we can't, it's not infinite the time, but 20 spots to those of you that really feel this is something that you'd like to explore. I'll also gift a copy of my book. All it takes is a little gumption, which is out now with New Holland Publishers. And in this book, I talk in depth about setting up my business in the circumstances that I did, how my personal life has been impacted by that. There's lots of hints and tips and tricks in there that you also might find useful, not just as a business owner, but as a woman who's ambitious and motivated and driven. So that's RRP'd at $29.99 and it's my gift to you. So you can contact me at Lisa, Lisa, at lbpr.com.au if you would like to be part of that process. And I wish you all the very best. I really hope that you can now confidently say, well, I know what PR is. and I know how I can use it, and I look forward to watching your successes as the year goes on. So all the best, stay safe, and I will no doubt talk to you soon. Bye.